Thank you, Mayor Shaw. I appreciate you for that introduction, for your work so many years, and for your leadership of the LMA. To my dear friend and cheerleader, Mayor Jennifer Vidrine of Ville Platte, and the next president of the LMA, thank you very much for your friendship and partnership. And Mayor Derek Johnson, I know that you're going to serve as first vice president, so congratulations to you as well. I always look forward to speaking to the LMA, to local leaders. I love it, whether it's the Police Jury Association, School Board Association, you name it, because I am inspired by the goodness, the decency of the people of Louisiana. But that is never more evident than in the people who choose to be leaders in this day and time, because I'm just going to tell you what you already know. It is not easy. And while we are blessed in so many ways, and we should always thank God for our blessings, some of the things that are blessings, there's the other side of that coin. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about broadband and how important it is that we have access to that and so forth. But anything that facilitates social media can have a problem associated with it too, right? Because people will say things on social media they would never go up to you and say to your face. Right. But you do it, you serve, and I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for your leadership in your towns, your villages, your cities, but also your partnership with the state, because we are partners. Whether we want to be or not, we are. And I have always wanted to be, quite frankly. And we're going to talk a little bit about some things that are going on. But I just want to start by kind of going back to where we were 2016, but the largest deficit ever. And as tough as that was for the state and as tough as it was for you, I hope you will recognize I never, ever tried to balance the books of the state of Louisiana on the backs of the municipalities and on the parishes. I never tried to do that. In fact, we didn't do that. I wanna also thank. We have a Lafayette person here today, or we did a while ago. I don't know if Sean Wilson is still in the room. Secretary of Transportation. He is actually elected as the president of the National Association of State Transportation Officials, NASTA. And he does a great job working for us. When I appointed Sean as the Secretary of Transportation, he was the only African-American Secretary of Transportation in the United States of America. And I am very proud of the work that he has done. I want to thank him. All right, so I've got some good news to share, and if you're like me, you can use some good news on occasion, right? Especially right now, because we have been challenged so much in so many different ways. We announced last Friday, I think it was last Friday, the state of Louisiana today enjoys the lowest rate of unemployment ever measured in our state at 3.8%. We have more people working today than we have ever had working in the state's history as well. And we've accomplished these things together. And by the way, we got a long ways to go. There's a lot of other things out there to fix, but this is something that we can just for a few minutes at least take some pleasure in. And I want to thank you for your work. It has been our efforts to grow and to diversify our economies, to make critical investments. And the truth is we're just getting started on all of that. I believe we have the best workforce in the country, and in fact, the U.S. Census Bureau says we have the most productive manufacturing workforce in the United States of America. And quite often, all we have to do is get people to come down and take a look at our state and meet our people, and then they will invest. Yep. So we're going to keep working on that. And when you think that we have more people working today in Louisiana than ever before, after having 5 hurricanes in the last 2 years, all during the pandemic, that's some of the challenges I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you so much for your leadership, for your steadfastness, There is not another state in our country that has been challenged the way we have over the last couple of years. Sure, every state's had the pandemic, and that's been bad enough. But throughout the pandemic, we've had 5 hurricanes, 2 of them tied for the strongest to ever hit our state. Hurricane Laura in 2020 and Hurricane Ida in 2021. And despite all of that, we're able to say we have more people working today than ever at any point in our history. So thank you very much. I want to encourage all of you to continue to work to help draw in investment, to sell your communities so that people will come and invest and create jobs, because a job isn't just a job. It is a way for a family to do better, and for your communities to do better, and for our state to do better as well. And one of the things that's been challenging that in rural Louisiana in particular, and by the way, in rural America, has been a lack of high quality, high speed, affordable internet. I think you probably saw that we announced earlier this week the first round of grant funding that we're making available through the Gumbo program all over the state of Louisiana. I am excited about it. This is part of our efforts to to eliminate the digital divide in our state by 2029. And we made announcements that for $130 million of public funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, which we have leveraged into a total of $225 million in investment when we look at the match being provided by the private internet service providers. We are going to bring affordable, accessible internet to over 66,000 homes and small businesses across 50 parishes just in this first round of funding that we announced. And that is obviously 50 of our 64 parishes. We have another $43 million in public funding that we will announce later this year. That will also be leveraged for more private funding. And of course, we're going to be focusing on those parishes that aren't participating in this first round to make sure that we can expand this program across the state. So really good things happening there. And if you haven't met Vineeth Iyengar, who runs the Connect LA office for us, we created an office for broadband in our Baton Rouge in my office. If you haven't met him, you need to meet him, because he is doing a tremendous job, he and his staff. And quite frankly, he's been held up by the federal government, by the Secretary of Commerce. She personally knows his name as someone that other states should emulate in their efforts to expand broadband. So you need to make sure that you get to know him. And as exciting as all this is, and by the way, I could not have been happier than to be in Lake Providence on Monday morning making this announcement, and then going over to Bastrop and talking about a separate effort funded through the Rural Digital Opportunity Funds, where a co-op, the Northeast Louisiana Co-op, is going to expand broadband across that region, and then being in Jackson, Louisiana yesterday. It's a lot of fun to go to places like that, because I'm from Amite, Louisiana. And I can only say that since I didn't hear anything, my folks from Amite, Louisiana are not in this room. Oh, you back there, but well, very good. It's good to see y'all. It is something that I think that we all should be proud of, these efforts. But what I want to tell you is the best is yet to come, because later this year, the FCC is going to map the entire state of Louisiana, and then we will see every address that does and does not have broadband access. We will then have the number that we need to get our share of the funding appropriated by Congress through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for broadband. And we will know what that is by the end of the year. And my prediction to you is it will be right at, if not more than, $1 billion. Wow. Just for broadband over the next few years. And when that comes on top of what we've already done, we're going to make tremendous progress. And then no matter where you live in the state of Louisiana, you're going to have access to information and a way to communicate to make your businesses more profitable, to do a telehealth visit so you don't have to get on the road and travel to the doctor's office, to do your homework, to take a course and get a college degree, whatever it is. In short, there's going to be more opportunity all over the state of Louisiana than we have today. And people are going to be able to stay at home and be successful. People are going to be able to move back home and be successful. And I am extremely excited about what we are doing. And so I'm hopeful that you're going to be involved in this process too. And you've heard a lot of accolades this afternoon about Senator Gerald Boudreaux, and they're all well-deserved. Another thing that he did is he authored a bill this year that allows us to get a head start at the state level. We're going to be doing that mapping ourselves, so that if the FCC map isn't correct and they're trying to shortchange us, we're going to be able to go and say, oh, no, you didn't do that right. And so I want to thank Senator Gerald Boudreaux for that critical piece of legislation as well. So this will make a big difference. But if we just get you high-speed internet to every address, that's wonderful, but it's not sufficient because it's got to be affordable. And these grants are only being awarded if it's going to be affordable. But in the meantime, there's something that we can all do. And this is your homework assignment for today. So there is a program available out there through the FCC. It's called the Affordable Connectivity Program. And for eligible individuals and families, and it depends on what your income level is, you can apply for this voucher, get $30 a month off of your internet bill, and get up to $100 to help buy a device. And that helps make it affordable. Now, we have the highest percentage of eligible people participating in the program in the country because of work Vineeth did, partnering with you all and other folks across the state of Louisiana. But there's still several 100,000 people in our state who would qualify that aren't participating. And so help me spread the word, please, in every nook and cranny of the state of Louisiana. You can go to fcc.gov/ACP, fcc.gov/ACP. And then, so if you have high-speed internet and it's affordable, you got to know how to use it. So digital literacy is really important. We're going to be working on that, and some of the grant funding that we're going to get, we're going to put specifically into literacy programs. Well, we're already advancing literacy initiatives through 5 pilots that we're doing across the state, working with the state library, but also the Board of Regents and the State Department of Education. There are 5 communities out there that are going to be trying to reduce digital illiteracy or improve literacy by 50% in those areas, and they'll be working out of the library branches. There will be sites in East Carroll Parish, Jefferson Parish, Livingston Parish, Rapides Parish, and West Feliciana as well. So a lot going on the broadband front. And it's just a part of the overall emphasis on infrastructure. I don't hesitate to say there is more funding available today and going forward over the next several years for infrastructure investment than we've ever seen as a country. And we've got to be smart about it, so we have to try to tackle our most important priorities. And we have to make sure that we're collaborating so that the work that you do and that the parishes do and that the state does, it all works together so that we get the best result at the end of the day. But there's more available out there right now, and principally because of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And quite frankly, I want to thank Senator Cassidy and Representative Troy Carter, the 2 members of our congressional delegation who voted for that, because it is the biggest source of funding we've had for new infrastructure. And roads, bridges, ports, airports, all of that, but water, sewer, broadband, and other things. So all very important for what we're doing. So when you see them, make sure that you thank them too, if you don't mind. Part of that additional funding also comes from the fact that we have righted the ship in Louisiana on a fiscal basis. And so we've been running surplus, and surplus money goes to capital construction, some of it to Sean for highways, some of it for coastal restoration, others for the capital construction budget. But all of those things together, we have more funding available now than we have ever had. And when I stop and think about where we are today relative to where we were 6 years ago when we were $2 billion short, and everybody's trying to figure out how we're going to keep the lights on, I can only give thanks and be appreciative for the work that we've all been able to do together. And we talked a little bit about this, but there's an additional $450 million in the water sector fund that you all can compete for, because water and sewer is critically important. And we're trying to make sure that more smaller municipalities can effectively compete for that funding in the second round. I think you're going to see that that's the case, and so I'm excited about working with you all on that. In addition to that, there's been $5 million deposited into the engineering sub-fund of the water sector fund, $10 million for the Community Water Enrichment Fund, $10 million for the Local Governmental Assistance Program, and then the $25 million we talked about earlier, $5 million for technical assistance to the LMA and the Police Jury Association to coordinate a program for local governmental entities applying for federal grants under the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. Because I know, based on where I come from, not all of our local government entities have grant writers on staff. Don't have them on retainer. And so to effectively apply for competitive grants, you need that assistance. And so we made that $5 million available. And then you're not going to compete for a grant if you've got a local match obligation should you be successful that you can't pay for. So we put another $20 million there, so that's the total of 25. And I'm going to say something right now that I have no doubt is true. The Louisiana Municipal Association, led by John Gallagher, and the Louisiana Police Jury Association, led by Guy Cormier, have never worked better or more closely together than they are right now, so that you all can take full opportunity. And I want to thank them. Y'all probably don't know this, but there's so many opportunities under the Investment and Infrastructure Jobs Act that I have regular cabinet meetings where we devote our time to only that. And you know who's in the room with us? John Gallagher and Guy Cormier, because we want to make sure that we are coordinating and working together and not at cross purposes. All right. In addition to all that, there's $102 million in new Priority 1 funding that will be considered by the Bond Commission, over $90 million in new Priority 2 funding in the capital construction budget, and over $157.6 million from general non-recurring revenue. And sometimes that's called cash. All of that is available for capital construction across the state of Louisiana, in addition to what is in the Capital Outlay Savings Fund. So, a lot of good news. What do we not need? A hurricane. We've had enough of those for a while. Now the truth is we don't get a vote, but we do get to pray. And I'm asking that you join your prayers to mine, and that whether you pray or not, that we all get prepared. Because we just might have one. So this is the second bit of homework I'm going to ask you to do. Please ask your people to make sure they have a game plan. Go to getagameplan.org. It'll remind you of things that you probably weren't thinking about in terms of preparing yourself and your family and making sure your pets are cared for and all of that. But there is some good news on the hurricane recovery front too, finally, and this has been slow, but we now have been approved by HUD for the state action plan on the 2020 allocation that came first, the $600 million, and that line of credit will be established soon. And we're very quickly submitting the state action plan for the second allocation, an additional $450 million for Southwest Louisiana, and then $1.05 billion for Southeast Louisiana because of Ida. And so all of those programs are going to be getting started pretty soon. And that's primarily going to go to low to moderate income folks without insurance to rebuild their houses. But there's additional funding there as well through the Community Development Block Grant Program. That's what I want to talk about now. So every time we have storms, the FEMA comes in and does public assistance work, and they will pay to rebuild public facilities get destroyed and damaged, but there's always a match obligation. And so you all are probably familiar with that. And then if there's a hazard mitigation grant program, there's always a match obligation. Well, the state is going to pay the match that you would otherwise have to pay at the local level, whether you're a parish or a municipality. And I wanted to share that with you today, because we don't want any of you turning away these dollars because you're not sure whether you're going to have the match. So I'm going to commit enough of the community development block grant funding to make sure that you're paying for that. And by the way, next week we will be putting out the hazard mitigation grant program schedule for Hurricane Ida, because we finally got the number from FEMA that we're looking at. So if you're in Southeast Louisiana, you'll be able to see what's going to what parishes out there. But I did direct the Office of Community Development to include funding to help with those local match obligations. And in fact, that's going to be a total of $318 million that the state will take off of your shoulders. And so I think that that's going to be very helpful to you. We will administer that much like we did after the 2016 floods. Now, there's also another $125 million from CDBG that's going to go to economic development projects in underserved communities, and $100 million for infrastructure investments in underserved communities. CDBG funding, and by the way, you're going to decide where those projects go. We're not going to decide that for you. And so I just wanted to make sure that I was sharing that with you. So we've got a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of challenges out there to overcome. We all know that. But there's an awful lot of good news too. And that's what I wanted to share with all of you today. If you don't know Toy Taylor and Roderick Scott, shame on you. Make sure you get to know them. They are my liaisons to local government. So if you need something, the fastest way to bring it to our attention, to my attention, is to work through Roderick and Toy. They're going to make sure that they are here and accessible to you all, so get to know them. And then I'll finish where I started. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your leadership. And whether you just got elected or if you're like me, you're in your last term, every single day there will be enough to keep us busy. And we have to work all the way through. That's what I will do as your governor. And if I can be of assistance to you, please don't hesitate to call on me. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Governor, very much. Thank you so much, Governor. We have a token of appreciation for you. Miss Don, you like that? She's going to love it. She'll love it. Thank you.